Hello and welcome to Persistence Using AnyDesk, the 26th video as part of our Red Team Fundamentals mini-series. In the preceding videos, we have examined some ways in which we can establish persistence. For example, by using registry run keys, we can ensure persistent access across system reboots and user logins. Additionally, through proxying DLLs, we can ensure persistent access every time our victim executes our hijacked program. However, until now, all of our established persistent access has been command line based, meaning that whilst we managed to persist our access, that access took the form of a command line interpreter. What do we do when we require graphical persistence? Although we could use RDP, there is no straightforward way of implementing persistence through it. Instead, we can leverage trusted third-party remote access applications such as AnyDesk, and in this video we will explore this approach in detail. As always, everything we teach in this video is purely for educational purposes. We accept no responsibility for your actions. Now, given the enormous quantity of software in today's digital landscape, one of the greatest challenges facing EDRs is distinguishing between software that is malicious and software that is legitimate. And conducting thorough analysis of every software application requires a decent amount of processing power, and many times analysis may result in false positives. This not only creates additional work for the blue team to analyze and triage, but also impacts end users' productivity. And if the EDR aggressively quarantines applications, potentially their sanity as well. If you've ever worked with EDRs, you will know that one of their core capabilities is providing a means to implement customizable policies. And these policies could refer to, say, how frequently the underlying connector is updated, the exceptions that are applied to it, and another common one is the customizable adjustment of the level of scrutiny applied to downloaded software. For example, the EDR solution could avoid scanning a particular piece of software if it matches a valid digital signature. Applications with such signatures are often trusted by their nature, as only the software developers can sign those applications. Consequently, EDR solutions might avoid scanning signed software and may simply allow its installation without interference. One such application is AnyDesk. AnyDesk is a remote desktop tool that enables users to connect to computers remotely, providing interactive access to remote systems across different networks. Now, because AnyDesk is a trusted application, and in fact is amongst one of the most popular remote access tools out there, it presents an interesting opportunity for persistence. More specifically, if we can install AnyDesk on the target system and obtain its remote access credentials, we may be able to graphically connect to the system whenever necessary. This not only establishes persistence, but also persistence with the means of interactive graphical access, which the previous two persistence techniques we discussed would not allow by default. Now, just keep in mind that installing software on the end system typically requires administrative access, and AnyDesk is no exception. Now, although the previous two techniques required little to no privileges, this technique requires complete system access, that is, administrative privileges. And if you don't know how to achieve this, stick around, as our next several videos we'll discuss the concept of local privilege escalation in detail. So, having understood these theoretical concepts, let's examine how we can apply this in practice. Now, before we begin, there are several requirements that we need to meet in order to establish persistence using AnyDesk. One, we will need to install two instances of AnyDesk, one being the client that will be installed locally, and the second being the server, which will be installed on the target system. Two, we will need to obtain the specific ID of AnyDesk's remote server. And last but not least, we will need to set a password that will be used to authenticate when accessing the target system, to which then we will be able to establish remote connection. So first things first, let's install the client, for which we will use to connect to the remote AnyDesk server. And as you can see here, AnyDesk supports basically every operating system out there. And obviously in our case, we will select Linux as we are running Kali Linux. Now, if we scroll down here a little, we will be able to select the specific package. And in our case, we will select the Debian package, which is probably the easiest to install. And once downloaded, we'll use the dpackage command to install it, specifying the iSwitch with the argument of our Debian package. And just make sure you are using sudo, as otherwise the installation will fail. And once installed, we can run the AnyDesk command, which will simply present us with AnyDesk's interface. Now, as for the server that we will be installing on the target system, you'll want to select Windows and then a download now. And then the downloaded executable will be the server component that we are installing on the target system. Now, there's no easy way to install applications on the target system, but before we do so, we need to upload the server component onto the target system. Now, you can save this component anywhere on the target system. However, we are saving it within the administrator user's downloads folder. And once uploaded, we can confirm its presence by using the ls command. Now, to install AnyDesk, we will use the execute command and then specify several switches in the process. The install switch will specify the location for where we are installing AnyDesk. And to make it seem legitimate, we are installing AnyDesk within the program files folder. And then the start with a Win switch will specify that AnyDesk should start with Windows, and this just creates a new service that runs upon system boot. And then the silent switch will specify that the installation should proceed without a user interface or error prompts, meaning the end user will not even see that this installation is happening. And this is quite good for OPSEC purposes. And then the update disabled switch will specify that updates for the installed version of AnyDesk should be disabled. And this is really optional, but to prevent the end user from being prompted to update AnyDesk, this switch helps us achieve this. Okay, so with the command line switches understood, we can proceed to install AnyDesk. And I'm not sure if this is a bug or something, but as you can see here, the output is empty. And this is normal, given that AnyDesk will not reveal anything back to the console, indicating its installation. However, to confirm that AnyDesk has installed, we can use the ls command with the folder into which we installed it. And if the contents of anydesk.exe is present, then we can safely assume that AnyDesk has been installed. Now, with AnyDesk installed, remember we will need to obtain that specific ID for which we will use to connect to the server instance. And to obtain this ID, we can execute AnyDesk's executable with the getID switch. And once executed here, you'll see that we are provided with the unique ID of the server component. And just keep in mind that this ID is unique on the target system for which we installed AnyDesk. And if it wasn't, that would mean using AnyDesk as a means of persistence would be invalid in the first place. All right, so with the ID obtained, we will need to set the password for which we will use when connecting to the server. Now, we could also remove the password if we want to. However, that is not recommended, as it means that anybody with the system's ID can connect to the server without providing authentication. So to set the password, we will have to pipe it to AnyDesk's executable using the set password switch. And once executed here, you will see that no output is provided, but by attempting to connect to the remote system, we will shortly see whether this was successful or not. Okay, so back on our client system, to connect to the server, we will use the AnyDesk command, providing it with the ID that we obtained earlier. And then also we will provide with the password switch that we will use to authenticate, which we are passing or piping to the AnyDesk command. Okay, so once executed here, you'll see that the connection proceeds to establish, and then we have graphical persistence. And then from here, we can use AnyDesk as our remote access tool to perform various system operations, such as listening on the sound of the remote system, perhaps even browsing the files and folders of it. and then I'll leave the rest of AnyDesk's capabilities for yourself to explore. And that concludes our exploration of persistence using AnyDesk. I hope you found this video informative. As mentioned earlier, in the following videos, we will explore privilege escalation in greater depth, examining how we can elevate our privileges beyond those of a standard user account, which will enable us to perform elevated actions without interception. More specifically, we will be covering two core Windows privileges, SE debug and SE impersonate, and how through them we can obtain password hashes and other secrets, ultimately achieving local system access. Additionally, one common obstacle in this process is UAC, and we will also examine various methods by which we can bypass it. In the meantime, feel free to join our Discord server to stay up to date with us, explore our courses, soon to be released labs, and one of the finest red teaming courses available. I've left a link to our group in the description below. Until then, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.